guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video we're talking about all things salt. We're going to discuss the varieties of salt, the storage method of salt, and why is it so important for us as a preppers to have salt in our preppers pantry. So first of all, let's establish what the salt is. It's very simple. It's also chemically known as sodium chloride and is basically a crystalline compound which we also known as salt. As you can see, there is kind of a variety of salts available for us on the market, so let's get through them. So let's start with a basic table salt that we can buy in pretty much every supermarket. It's dead cheap, guys. Well, it was just getting up in price anyway. But this salt is actually mined from underground deposits, or at the same time there's a possibility that could be harvested through evaporated seawater. But this salt goes through the clarifying process, which kind of purifies the salt from impurities, but at the same time it takes away any of the trace elements that you have in other salts. Also, those trace elements have specific tastes, so they basically make salt taste pretty plain without any funny aftertaste. At the same time, guys, they do add on some anti-caking agent, which makes sure that the salt is actually flowing, and you can store it in your pantry and you have no issues if stored correctly. Okay, I know there are in the markets, guys, there's things like called a pickling salt. Okay, and I think it's more so readily available in the states or different countries. You can buy the pickling salt in the UK, however, it's severely overpriced. And the only difference is, guys, between the pickling salt and this salt, well, it's barely any difference whatsoever. The reason they actually call it a pickling salt is because it's tiny granules and they're easily dissolved in obviously your brines or pickles, whatever you're doing. The only thing that pickling salt doesn't have is anti-caking agent. However, guys, to be fair, that makes absolutely no odds, and that's probably why in UK we don't particularly have this or use it. So generally people use for pickling a normal table salt. I actually use sea salt out of the personal choice, but of course it is my choice. But this is what it is. It's just basic salt, okay? So we're moving on, guys, to next thing is a pink Himalayan salt. As you can see, I've got a good few. How many? There's 4 kilos in here, and I have my everyday salt kept in here. Okay, so Himalayan salt is actually mined from ancient salt deposit in Himalayas, and that's why it's got that distinct pink color. At the same time, the beauty of it, guys, it does have some traces of minerals which are beneficial to our health. It does have quite a good amount of iron, which is beneficial. So to me, guys, the pink Himalayan salt is one of the best things to have in your prepper's pantry, purely due to those additional minerals. When we're talking about preparing for the SHTF situation and when things are limited or could be limited, having any additional benefit in things, simple things like salt, I think is really, really good. At the same time, guys, as you're probably aware, all those salts generally come in either really fine, medium, or you can buy really coarse crystals. You can actually even buy whole chunks of Himalayan salt. And again, it's up to you. It's a personal choice what you want to stock in your pantry. However, as you can see, I like to have a little bit of everything or a lot of some in certain instances, but there are options there available. Of course, we're now also going on to the normal sea salt, okay? And this is, again, one of my go-to for cooking on a daily basis. I've bought myself quite a lot of, so I've got the bag in here, there's 9 kilos. I prefer to buy this in a really large bags, like of Amazon. You can buy them in 25 or upwards kilos as well. And it might sound a bit silly, you'll say, but it's actually so much more cheaper than buying salt in the smaller containers in the supermarkets. The same really applicable, guys, to like table salt. You can buy that cheaper if you buy this in bulk, because you know you can buy those little containers, the cardboard containers, the table salt. They're still like about 80 something pence, but it's only a few hundred grams in there, if that. So if you actually do your research and have a look online, it's much more cost effective to be able to buy stuff in kind of really large quantities. So anyway, so sea salt, guys, is absolutely the same thing. It comes in the really fine sea salt and it comes in the sea salt granules or chunks. As I said, I choose to have both, but again, it's totally up to you. Don't forget that the bigger salt, you can put this in a grinder and you can make it into the fine salt without any issues. And this is, to me, really, it's my go-to. Right. Right, next thing guys, right, let's cover this one. As you're probably aware, and I did mention this before, it's the iodized salt, which is basically your cooking or table salt with the addition of iodine. Again, it is something that I choose to have as a prepper pantry in my prepper pantry. I don't use that on a daily basis because, you know, the iodine, if you consume a healthy diet, you can get your iodine from eggs, from dairy. So there's no really need to take a substitute of the iodine unless you're suffering with some sort of medical condition. So, however, I always have iodine salt just there, just in case for the scenario where the certain foods might not be available and we need a little bit boost of the iodine. Then guys, next thing we're moving on is it's actually a black Himalayan salt. It is also called Kala Namak, okay? And I have this guys here. I have this in a small finely grind salt granules, if you wish. And then I have a bag here of, I think it was 5 kilos of a really chunky granules. It is generally found again in the Himalayan mountains, okay? And the reason it has this color is due to its sulfur content. And it's, guys, I'm kid you not, if you never try this, it is very, it smells very eggy and it tastes very eggy as well. It's got this kind of umami flavor to this and I found this absolutely amazing. It's not something that you would use every day on your everyday foods as you wish. However, especially if you're vegan, it's got very, as I said, the eggy flavors, eggy smell. So if you are trying to substitute eggs or just generally maybe want to have on a certain food, it's really good. As I found it before, sometimes I kind of like to have, not say a little bit of snack, but I can't help but just put one in my mouth. I don't know, it's really weird, but it's got something there that I found really appealing. And of course, knowing me guys, I don't do things by half a measure, so I did get myself a massive bag in here. So I always keep my salts in the prepper's pantry, instant in a kitchen cupboard, in the tiny little pots. And then I've got my on a counter across the road. I've got the salt and things that I use normally in a bigger jars, okay? That will last you quite a while. Further on, guys, obviously storing, if you do buy a lot of salt, is storing this in either Mylar bags or you can transfer them into a plastic bottles which I've been collecting from water. Salt, okay, it has indefinite shelf life and it doesn't really require a lot of attention in terms of storing. You can do pretty much what you want with it, providing, guys, you do not keep them in those paper containers they come in, okay? Salt absorbs water, so if there's any moisture in the air, those containers will eventually absorb water. Of course, the salt inside will also take on water and it becomes a bit cloggy and clumpy and we don't want that. However, as an alternative thing, guys, you can just keep this in the normal bags if they're thicker bags. Those bags I find split or have holes already anyway in them, so you can transfer this into just a general vacuum sealer bag. There's no need to vacuum seal it unless you really want to. You certainly do not need to waste your money on the oxygen absorbers because they're just totally not required. The salt will just happen indefinitely in your pantry, providing it doesn't get wet and you don't have any high temperature fluctuations. So again, this is pretty much covers up the salt availabilities here. Yes, guys, of course, you can still buy yourself a kosher salt. Again, I don't think it's something that's very renowned to be available here in UK. However, kosher salt is basically like a normal table salt, but it has a larger crystals, if you wish. It's easier for people to pick up and to kosher meat. This is all the difference. This is just still a plain salt without any additives. This is kind of that. This is what we have available here. So hopefully, guys, you found this of a bit of interest and give this a go because I think it's absolutely lovely. Anyway, so why, as a preppers, guys, why do we need to have salt? And certainly, why do you think I need to have so much of the salt? Well, first of all, guys, salt is a good preservative. You know, guys, whether you're doing the pickling or you're doing salting, you will need salt. And in some cases, you need a lot of it. For example, if you were to do like a salted cod, which they do in Iceland, or guys, if you can bake fish and you have to put a lot of salt on the top to cover this. We are talking slightly bit extravagant recipes. However, there are things there, and the main thing being a preservative. Secondly, guys, you're probably aware that the salt is something our body needs to maintain hydration and our electrolytes level. you know, generally when you have, or you can make electrolyte drinks, which will involve adding on salt, and something that I'll show you and share with you in a different video. I know some people say like salt is really bad for you, but our body cannot function without salt. And of course, it has to be done in moderation. So next thing, guys, is generally because the salt consists of the sodium and chloride, this is also the things that our body needs, especially, guys, if we're talking about preparing for the uncertain times where, again, the varieties of food is not available. So again, having this, it is good for our health, again, of course, in moderation. Next thing, guys, in the desperate times, okay, and they used to do this old days, is for the wound care, okay? Do you know they say don't put the salt in the wounds? Well, this is what they used to do. Salt is a minor antiseptic, okay, and it's not something I appreciate that you would want to do, especially on the cut and graze. However, again, if we're in a situation where things are not available, we're not prepped enough, or things ran out, it's something to bear in mind that it does have this abilities of be able to stop some extent of the spread of the bacteria. This is at the same time, guys, why the people used to have gurgle the salted water to help the throat, to soothe the throat, and at the same time to do the salt water when you breathe inhale this through your nose, that helps to actually clear a little bit of cold and a bit of sinuses. So there's a lot of things that salt can offer us we might not be aware of on a daily basis, because we generally don't need to think about it. And of course, guys, as a last thing, okay, as a prepper thing, salt is a good butter item. We know this, right? I've covered this on some videos about the butter items before. And of course, it is one of the key things of the buttering trade. They used to use salt as a butter items and as a wage payer, like Roman times. So it's been renowned to have this effect. Because if you think about it, guys, when there's nothing on the market, say not on the market, but in the SHTF situation, if there's nothing available, not a lot going on, you're eating your plain beans and rice, and you kind of need some seasoning, well, this is where the salt comes in, okay? Because again, it adds just that little bit of flavor, and of course, the little nutrients, minerals, whatever is in there, which will help the health and obviously the body to get through a slightly tougher time. So there you have it. So, and I'll quickly just cover up in terms of the storage, guys. Don't get me wrong. If you don't have the space, you don't really need to have this like huge salt. It all depends on your space and obviously the level of what you're preparing for. I just choose to have a lot because, well, it's me. I don't do things by half a measure, and I choose to have a lot of things that I think we potentially could be relying on anyway. If you're worried about storage, as I said, this bag in here, the salt in there, as I said, is 9 kilos. They are in a Milo bag, yes, but purely because it's heavy and I haven't had anything else to put it onto. It's not sealed, okay, it's just a Ziploc, because I said it does not need anything else. This way, guys, you either can buy it in the bags like this, keep them in the bags like this. You can transfer it into bigger Milo bags if you want to, but the point is, if you don't have the space for the bottles because they have to be standing up, you can also keep stuff in boxes. And I do have some of my grains and salts are also in one of those very useful, what they call them, very useless stackable boxes, because again, as long as they're in a place, you can stack them up, pull them out of the way, and done, and you really don't have to worry about that anyway. So anyway, guys, I do hope you find this helpful, at least some. If you've got any questions at all, please down comment below. Guys, well, thank you for watching. Maybe subscribe if you haven't already, and I shall see you in the next video. Bye bye.